Hello bookworms! Today I'm here with my October wrap-up. I am really excited about how many books I was able to read in October because if I'm being completely honest, I was in a little bit of a book slump in the beginning. I don't even know if that counts because for the first 2 weeks of October, I did not read a single novel. I read a whole bunch of manga and comics, but I read no books. I was concerned with how I was going to do this month, but in the last couple of weeks, I ended up doing really well, and I was able to read a total of 9 books, so go me. I did feel like I was reading as if there were a readathon going on almost because I was just like, oh my god, I barely read anything. I guess I just made the time for it, like certain nights where I would be watching Netflix, I was like, no, this is a reading night. And I also read some books that were kind of big too, so I'm just really pleased all around. And I forgot to say in my September wrap-up video, but I actually made my Goodreads goal for the year. My goal was to read 100 books, and I believe right now I'm at 120 something books, so that's really cool. I'm very happy about that. But anyway, I'm going to tell you about what I read now. So the first book that I read is This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills. Emma Mills is actually a fellow YouTuber. I'll leave a link to her channel down below. This is her second book, and I am obsessed with the cover. It is so beautiful. But it follows a girl and her family who moved down to Florida from New York in her final year of high school. And she found it very easy to do that. She really didn't have any attachments to her life in New York. And she never really had friends there or anything. So when she moves to Florida, she ends up falling into this group of friends who are very close-knit, and they've been friends for a really long time, like before she was ever there. And it's so adorable how they just kind of take her under their wing, and they really show her that it is important to have friendships and to have relationships, and to just be involved with other people. It really does change your life. Even though you might not feel like there's anything missing, you might just not realize that life could be even better than it is. So it was really heartwarming, really adorable. Her father in this book is a writer, and he's struggling with writer's block and a bit of depression, but it's not something that her family really talks about. So it was also interesting to see that aspect because her dad is her best friend. And then there's also this hunt for something that goes on during the book that is so cute. And I just loved everything about it. It was really just a feel-good contemporary, and I needed it. It totally pulled me out of my novel slump and just propelled me through the rest of October. And I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This book is about a girl who everyone says is comparable to being a female version of Dexter. It has a terrible cover, but anyway, it was really good. It's very raw, and it speaks a lot about rape culture, but everything is handled very well. It follows 3 different perspectives. There is a girl named Alex who is the one who is the Dexter character. It follows a girl named PK who is the preacher's daughter, or preacher's kid, hence PK. And it follows a boy named Jack. And all 3 of their stories intertwine. They live in this very tiny town, and it honestly doesn't seem like a great place to live because of all of the issues that occurred in this book. It was really difficult to read at times because it is so raw, but it's a really important book, and it was just really well written. Everything was handled really well. I can honestly say that this is one of the best books that I have read this year. It's definitely the best contemporary book that I've read this year. It was really different, and it really wasn't afraid to go places that other books have not gone, especially in the YA genre. So I really appreciated that. Everything about it was so good. This was an easy 5 out of 5 stars for me. Then I read The Merciless by Danielle Vega, and I hated this so much. This is a horror novel that follows a group of girls in high school. The main character is a girl who just moved to this town, and she meets these girls who seem like the kind of goody popular girls, and they're very into religion. And then there's this other girl. She's just an alternative type girl. And it turns out that she is kind of a rival and an ex-friend of this set of popular girls. The set of popular girls decide that she's been inhabited by a demon, and they need to like exorcise her to get that demon out of her and like make her stop doing bad things. And it's just real gruesome. Honestly, like, okay, so I can handle like blood and gore. That's totally fine with me. But I just did not like anything about the way that this was written. I didn't like any of the characters. I thought they were all terrible people. Like, nothing about it was good to me. And also, it just seemed like such a Mean Girls ripoff. Like, I like when things are inspired by other things, but it was too much of like a direct ripoff. So the main character, who is new, is hanging out with these new girls, and then they suggest that she like pretend not to be friends with them and be friends with this other alternative girl to find out what's going on, which was very similar to Mean Girls for me. And also the main Mean Girl, her name, I think was Riley. So it's even like Riley Regina. It just was bad. It was just really bad in my opinion. I'm sorry if you like this book. It just wasn't for me, which I'm sad about because I really love this cover. It's pink and beautiful. But I think I'm probably going to be unhauling this one because there was nothing about it that I liked. 1 star. Then I read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, and this is the first book to be released under James Patterson's new imprint called James Patterson Presents. And it's books for young adults, and they are shorter books that are supposed to be more plot-driven and very suspenseful to keep you interested in reading and to like help you, I guess, get through the books. I really, really enjoyed this one. It takes place in Victorian London, and it follows a girl who is supposed to be like a proper woman in that time, but she does not agree with any of the social norms of the time period, and she completely goes against her father's wishes, and she apprentices under her uncle, who is in charge of like examining bodies after they've been found. She breaks all the rules. She goes and like interns or apprentices under him or whatever, and she meets this guy named Thomas who also apprentices underneath her uncle, and the two of them form this relationship, which is so cute. I really like them together. They're investigating all of the murders from Jack the Ripper, so that was really, really cool to see because I love Jack the Ripper. It was really interesting, really entertaining. I would say it was historical light, so it wasn't challenging to get into, like despite that some of the writing tried to be like older, like have like an older feel to it. It was still very approachable and very easy to get into. I really, really liked it. I really loved how strong the main character was about just sticking to doing the things that she wanted to do and not letting people hold her back because she's a woman. There were certain times where she was playing the game to get what she wants so that she wouldn't like miss certain things, but she did it begrudgingly and she handled everything in like a really good way. And just the whole story when it came together was really, really good. I saw it coming from the beginning. I knew who it was, and I'm so proud of myself for that. But even still, like knowing, I really love this book, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. This is the first book in the series, and I've been wanting to read this one for a while. I've said in other videos, but my husband actually went to college with this girl here on the cover. It's about this girl who finds out that she's a witch, and she goes to this boarding school that's full of other witches, and she ends up rooming with a vampire who's the only vampire that is allowed to be at this school because they have some kind of program where they let one of them be there like per year. That was really interesting. I thought it was really cute. Like it was like a fun, very quick read. It wasn't something that really like stuck with me, but it was enjoyable while I was reading it. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I finally did it. I read Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and I'm so glad that I did. It took me forever to finally pick this one up because I've had it for over a year. So I don't know why I waited so long, but I'm glad that I did read it. I thought it was really good. The story was really, really interesting, but really what stood out the most to me with this book was just the format of it was so cool and so unique from anything that I've ever read. There were so many pages that I was just like studying for so long, being like, wow, that's awesome. Like, how did they even think to do this? So I thought it was really enjoyable. It follows a girl and a guy. So there was like an attack on where they live, and they're kind of like involved in this war, and they're surviving on these spacecrafts, and there's a lot of things going on, and there's an AI that is like crazy. It was really, really good. It really held my interest. I didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to love it, but I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, particularly just because of the format being so unique. Then I read City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. This is the final book in the Mortal Instruments series, and as you probably know, I had mixed feelings about the Mortal Instruments from book 1. I never really fully got into it as much as other people, although I love the Infernal Devices. So this 6th book was amazing to me, and I was really surprised that I loved it as much as I did. I was expecting it to be like okay, but it was really long, but totally worth the read, and I'm glad that I got through the rest of the series just to read this one. I don't want to obviously spoil anything, but I think that part of the reason that I loved this one so much is because of the ties that it had to the Infernal Devices series. As soon as something happened, I was just like, and then I couldn't stop reading, and I loved it. And I thought that it was a really good ending. And now I'm even more excited to read Lady Midnight, because you also meet the characters who are going to be in Lady Midnight in this final book. So I just thought that it was a really, really great ending to the series. I was really not expecting to love it as much as I did. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Architect of Song by A.G. Howard, and I've talked about this book a little bit on my channel before, but it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is a new adult novel, and I fell in love with this book. It was so good. Like, it completely blew me away. It was the way that she adapted Beauty and the Beast to turn it into her own story was absolutely phenomenal, and just everything about it was so beautiful, and the writing was so like lyrical and gorgeous. The main character is actually deaf, so she can't hear anything, and she finds this flower on a grave, and she thinks that it's so beautiful, so she decides to take it from the grave, which is what she does. She brings it into her home, and then realizes that when she touches one of these petals, there's a ghost that appears, and it's the ghost of the person whose grave she visited. And then the whole book is about her and him trying to solve this mystery of why this other man, Lord Thornton, wants to take over her estate. So she doesn't want to let go of it. Her mom and father are deceased. She's living with her uncle, and she really wants to do anything that she can to save her property. Yeah, there's just so much that happens. It's so good, and there's this whole mystery, and this book had me guessing throughout the entire thing. Like, every time that I thought that I had it figured out, I didn't, and there was more to the story. And then also every time that it feels like they told you what it was that happened, there's still more to the story, and you're just like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just twists and turns, like, at every chapter. It was amazing. And then also on top of that, look at how pretty these chapter headings are. They have like a butterfly and flowers. I just thought that was gorgeous. But I just really loved everything about this book. This is probably one of the best like fairy tale retellings that I have read in a really long time, and I loved it. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I read is Paper Princess by Erin Watt. Erin Watt is actually 2 authors. So it is Elle Kennedy, who wrote the Off-Campus series, and it is Jen Frederick, I believe, but I'm not familiar with any of her books. So the 2 of them wrote this together. It's a trilogy. This is the first book in the trilogy. It was completely different than what I was expecting. So it looks like it would be about a royal family of sorts, but it's not. It's a contemporary book, and it's about this girl named Ella whose mother passes away from cancer, and Ella decides to kind of take over her mother's identity so that she can live on her own, because she doesn't want to get thrown into any kind of like orphanage or anything like that. She just wants to like live her life and get to become an adult on her own. So she's a stripper in order to make money, and then all of a sudden she is whisked away by this man who is best friends with her father that she never knew. Her father's also deceased, but apparently this man has been searching for her since the father passed away. He's been trying to find the daughter, and he does, and he brings her back to his house, which is this enormous mansion, and he has 5 sons, and they're all like very hot, like macho guys, and she's just like completely intimidated, and she doesn't necessarily believe that she belongs there, and all of the boys are really horrible to her, and they like don't believe that she fits in there, but there's a lot that's going on like that she doesn't know about. So it's about her like adjusting to living this new life. I mean, her name is Ella, so it's like a Cinderella story. Like she's adjusting from going to rags to riches without really fitting in. And it's interesting to read her journey about it. This is definitely a new adult book. There's a lot of sex in this book, and there are definite triggers for people that have trouble reading about sexual abuse and stuff. So just be very wary going into it if you want to read this. I will say that this book was extremely problematic. Like there were so many situations that were horrible. It was almost challenging to read at points just because there were situations that made me so uncomfortable. But I did read it. Like despite all of that, it was really addicting. Like it was a really quick read and I got through it really fast. But again, like it was enjoyable to read, but it was problematic. So I'll leave it at that. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I think I am going to continue with the series. There was like a major cliffhanger at the end of this book, and I'm curious what happens next. So it's like a love-hate thing where like I feel bad that I liked it because I realize how problematic it is, but I did, so I want to know what's going to happen next. So that's where I stand on this one. So those are all of the books that I read in October. Let me know if you've read any of these and if you have any similar or differing opinions. And I will see you guys soon with my TBR video. Bye!